Budget hearings, council budget hearings begin. First on the agenda is Ms. Jackie Eslick, Director, and whomever else you may have with you. Welcome. Director Eslick, if you would, just introduce your associates and.
Okay, Julie Welch, the office.
You might want to pull your microphone down to you.
Okay, Julie Welch, the office assistant, Ann Arney, board chair, and Terrence Darby, an inspector.
All right, thank you. And there's, before you get started, there's one question we have to propose, and that is, can you operate within the mayor's proposed budget?
I can.
All right, the floor is yours. Please, whatever presentation you have.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Beer Board with you tonight. The mayor's proposed budget for the Beer Board recommends an additional beer inspector's position. This additional position will enable more establishments that sell beer to be brought into compliance. The recommended budget allows the department to have 5 full-time employees. If this improvement is approved, then our department will consist of 3 beer inspectors, 1 office support, and executive director. The department maintains the records of more than 1,600 beer and dance permits and provides permitting and inspection services. Last year, we saw an increase of 16% in applications. The office is thankful and grateful for the recommendation of an additional inspector, but office personnel is urgently needed as well. With the city's growth and increase in office duties and responsibilities, the additional inspector that has been recommended will split their office hours to work in the office and in the field. As of June the 1st, we have collected more than $484,000 in revenue and have exceeded our projections. Out of that, 22% came from beer permits, 9% came from dance permits, 35% came from the privilege tax, and 35% came from civil penalties. In the upcoming year, the Beer Board will continue to provide excellent service to those seeking permits and will continue to inspect and bring into compliance the establishments that utilize our services. I would like to thank you for your time, and at this time, if the council have any questions.
Thank you. We'll open up the floor to council members. Council Member Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The non-program revenue, I guess, is where you're showing the income of the 420 something thousand you just said.
484.
484. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that correctly. All right. The other question I'm going to ask you, and this is not a surprise to anyone, you actually had a reduction in your internal service fee by $10,000, almost $11,000. Why did you have a reduction?
My understanding is that there was an application, one application bill for last year that's not billed this year. ITS. With ITS.
One application bill. I'm sorry.
It's just a reduction in the ITS.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, I'm going to be asking the questions tomorrow on this. I'm just trying to follow this because yours is a pretty drastic reduction compared to others. So that I just wanted to know. But very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Council Lady Moore.
How you all doing? I know y'all do a great job. I just wanted to, is this your first time asking for a position to be filled?
We have in the past.
Well, I think that you all deserve it, and I hope that that goes well for your office. And I just have a quick question. The active dance permits, what does that mean? I mean, I know it's dance, but what type of dance permits? I mean, I never knew you had to have a dance permit to dance.
Yeah, you wanna-
Wait, at what kind of club?
Yes, you do have to have a dance permit.
I'm curious.
You want to talk?
Yes, ma'am, in Davidson County, if you're having...
Pull that mic to you there.
Yes, ma'am, I'm Inspector Darby with the Beer Board. In Davidson County, if you are operating an establishment and you're having what we call public dances, where there are fees associated with that event, you have to have a dance permit, and that dance permit is issued through our office.
So these are just like ballet, no?
No, ma'am, like a dance, a disco, a club.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Interesting. And we got how many? 200? Pardon me? I'm just curious. Okay. All right. That's my question. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Tiger.
Thank you. Where in your budget does your vehicle expense appear?
Fleet management, under,
It's in the internal service fees for, okay, so how many vehicles do your staff operate?
2,
And those are the inspectors out in the field?
right.
What kind of, is there a class or a training session for a new establishment that is mandatory if I'm opening up a bar or a restaurant to talk about over-serving patrons and identifying these signals type thing? Is that something, or is it just fill out the application, read the booklet, and get my license?
Complete the application, and we hand them the booklet to make sure they have the booklets, or if they doing it on the website, and tell them that it is important that they understand the beer laws and the rules and regulations. And we also, in the application, have them to check that they understand the beer laws and rules and regulation.
In your experience, is underage drinking a growing problem or a lesser problem today than some point in the past?
Percentage-wise, I don't know. I just off the top of my head, I think it's still a growing problem. I think, with teenagers out.
Is this something that your inspectors, when they go out and do their inspections, maybe Mr. Darby, I could ask that, is that something you look for in the patrons of an establishment, both underage and overserved?
Yes, sir, those are 2 of the things that we look for when we visit an establishment.
So what is your enforcement procedure, or what do you do if you suspect there's an issue?
If we suspect there's an issue, we would first identify ourselves as beer inspectors to the person that we are checking, ask for their identification, verify their age, and at the same time we're observing their being, making sure that they are not intoxicated. If by chance they're determined to be underage, then at that point we would take it further, or intoxicated, we would take it further.
You see sting operations and different things. Is that something that you all participate with the police department in, or how does that work?
Yes, sir. It's a combined group, police department, along with a organization in the community. We all work together, as well as with the ABC.
Well, I just want to commend you all, because I've been here a long time, and I've seen you come from paper records and pencils and file cabinets and whatnot, and you've now entered the 21st century in terms of your record keeping, and from the clients that I deal with in your industry, it seems to be much more computerized, user-friendly, et cetera. So my final question, once again for Mr. Darby, in your experience out in the field, have you ever seen Councilman Pardue dancing, and if so, is all of his moves legal?
No, he's always been a straight-up guy. I hadn't seen him dancing anywhere.
I hope I never see that side either. Thank you.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back into the numbers. Mr. Riebling, actually, I'm going to direct this to you, please. All right, so the operating budget that you requested is $368,600, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you had revenues of about 484,000 this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If we continue that trend, what happens to that additional money, Mr. Riebling? And you know where I'm going.
Money
so-
goes into the general fund, and it's included in our revenue that we're used to balance the budget.
Okay, okay.
So
All right.
those revenue numbers will be reflected in the budget ordinance as revenue collection from that service.
Okay, but we're showing the revenues, so we're showing revenues this coming year of 456.
Right, and that should be reflected in the budget ordinance. When you look at all the various sources of revenues, it should match up to that number.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Eslick, seeing no other councilman, excuse me.
I just want to address a little bit of your question about, one thing I think about, I know we've asked for, I'm Ann Arney, I'm chair of the beer board, asked for an additional office person would be ideal, and the mayor's budget includes an additional inspector, but every time there's a sting, I just want people to kind of visualize what happens. That means that there is additional paperwork, and as important as that is, that's more work. So every time, we bring in more underage drinkers through a sting, which we've had a lot of, it seems like, this year, that's more work for all of the staff. All that has to be processed. It's not just a kind of a slam dunk. It all has to be processed. It all has to be sent out to board members. It has to be heard before the board, and that's all more work for the staff. And the other thing is Jackie talks about, the application is just you come in and you have your application and you check that you understand the beer laws, or once in a while people check that they don't. But there's more to that. There's all kinds of paperwork that goes with that, and I'm sure that you all are aware, but I want to make it clear that it's not like the staff just sitting there waiting for somebody to fill out their name and sign it. There's a lot more background information that has to go into that, and you're dealing a lot of times with people who have English as a second language. They don't have a lawyer with them explaining to them how these forms work or what else they need or where to go. So it's a very hands-on process, even when it's automated. Okay, so I just also want to commend our staff for doing such a great job with that very kind of cumbersome process at times, and also with the inspectors who are the face of Nashville to these new restaurants, these new places opening. They go out and do the inspections promptly. They just do a great job. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Again, seeing no other council members in the queue, that concludes your presentation. But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next up be the Chamber of Commerce.